Okay, so the future of radio, wow, there's so much. In fact, the geochron folks, they may end up being part of that, but I will save that for a future discussion. But I will say right away regarding weather here on Earth and the ionosphere here on Earth, the upper atmosphere where we all do skywave, right? We rely on that upper atmosphere to be able to do skywave and HF and DXing and all of that. There is no good way right now to do the predictions for that type of forecasting. The ionosphere, the upper atmosphere, is so complicated that any model that we have right now that could even approach trying to predict the way that upper atmosphere is going to be, and the layers and all that kind of thing. Those models are so slow that they could never do it in real time, let alone future time, faster than real time. So predictions right now of the ionospheres are basically out the window. And really what we're kind of locked into are nowcasts. But we don't, up until recently, we really didn't have a great way of doing nowcasting. But now with things like the WhisperNet and PSK Reporter, right, reverse beacon network, and now even the GPS and the GNSS databases at higher frequencies, higher radio frequencies, we actually are getting to a point where we can start doing nowcasting of ionospheric propagation conditions. But it hasn't been implemented on a wide scale yet, let alone implemented on a scale where we could actually start impacting how science is done, how future science is done, and how future models are created, and what scientists learn in terms of understanding our upper atmosphere. So here at Earth, that is a huge way how radio, just amateur radio, is going to be of monster use coming in the next decade, or I would say in this new solar cycle. Because there are a lot of scientists already taking note of that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So what I wanted to ask was, when you were saying that, so a lot of times what people do for predictive analytics is they look at historical patterns and trends, and they say that when these conditions read these numbers, then we can expect this kind of behavior. When you're talking about nowcasting, you're talking about the ability to take a look at real-time analytics and say that this is what we're seeing now, and then give a more accurate prediction. Is that right?
Yes, because what you're talking about prior to that is more like climatology. And it's like saying, instead of looking at what is the weather today, it's like, well, what was the weather last year at this time? And saying, well, then that's what the weather is going to be like today, because last year at this time, or over the last few years, we average it. And that's what we're going to say that's what our weather is. At the moment, that's about how well we can do with the ionosphere, weather, so to speak. But that ends up really not being useful on a day-to-day because of the variability that's involved. That's why you can't really look at some of these old climatological models and expect them to tell you what the ionosphere is going to do on any given day. Not to mention, weather affects the ionosphere from below, and of course, space weather affects it from above. So you get this, basically the ionosphere, the part of the upper atmosphere that we care about as amateur radio operators, it's the cream filling in an Oreo cookie, where the wafer on top is the space weather, the wafer on bottom is the terrestrial weather, and it's squeezing from both sides and squishing this Oreo cream filling, which is the middle. So you never know what that is going to be like on any given day, because there's just so much variability for both from above and from below. So that's going to change, I think, and amateur radio is going to really help in that sense. So that's one